The morning in Kyoto began with stillness. Ella stood by the sliding paper doors of her traditional ryokan room, looking out into the small inner garden. A stone lantern sat beside a shallow pond, where koi fish moved lazily beneath the surface. Bamboo leaves rustled in the breeze, and a soft scent of hinoki wood drifted through the air. The tatami mat was cool under her feet. She had awoken with the sun, as if the rhythm of the city itself had quietly entered her dreams. She dressed slowly, pulling on a soft linen shirt, loose trousers, and slipping her feet into Geta sandals. Breakfast was served in silence: grilled fish, miso soup, pickled vegetables, rice, and a single perfect plum. The woman who brought the tray bowed with a gentle smile. Ella bowed in return. She wrote in her notebook. In Japan, even the quiet is folded neatly. By mid-morning, she stepped out into the streets of Gion, where the old wooden houses leaned into each other like elders sharing secrets. The sun warmed the stone alleys as she wandered past tea houses and sake shops, paper lanterns swaying gently above her head. She stopped to watch a woman in a kimono place fresh flowers outside a doorway. Everything felt deliberate, every detail a kind of offering. Soon the city shifted. Ella boarded a train heading north, sleek, silent, and fast. Inside the Shinkansen, the world flew past her window in a blur of rice fields, mountains, and small towns. A child next to her peeled an orange, offering her one perfect slice without saying a word. When she arrived at Arashiyama, the forest welcomed her. She stepped onto a shaded path lined with towering bamboo. The stalks rose impossibly tall, their green skins glowing in the filtered light. The air was cool, touched by wind that moved like breath. She walked slowly, listening to the creak of the bamboo, the echo of her sandals, and the occasional distant call of a bird. At the end of the path, she found a temple. She removed her shoes, washed her hands at the stone basin, and entered. The air inside was still, the scent of incense lingering. She sat cross-legged on a cushion, facing a small altar. A monk lit a stick of incense and bowed. She bowed in return. Minutes passed. She didn't think. She didn't try to think. She simply breathed. Later, she strolled through the temple gardens. Moss-covered stones, maple leaves just beginning to turn, a trickle of water over rocks. It felt like walking through a poem. She wrote, "Stillness is not the absence of motion. It is the presence of everything that matters." In the afternoon, she returned to the city, this time to Shibuya. Tokyo was another world, vivid, pulsating, and full of energy. Ella stood at the famous Shibuya crossing and watched the tide of people flow in every direction when the lights changed. Thousands moved at once, yet never collided. A kind of choreographed chaos. She entered a bookstore that spiraled upward, each floor dedicated to a different theme: art, science, literature, food. She bought a small volume of haiku, its cover wrapped in hand-printed washi paper. On the rooftop, she sipped matcha from a quiet cafe overlooking the skyline. Neon lights blinked on one by one. Below, the city glowed like circuitry. Even here, in the noise, she found something gentle. Dinner was a bowl of ramen, served at a counter where the chef worked in practiced silence. The broth was rich, the noodles perfect. A soft-boiled egg floated on top, its center golden and warm. Ella ate slowly. Beside her, a businessman removed his tie and let out a long breath. They exchanged no words. But when she stood to leave, he nodded once, as if to say, "You understand." Night in Japan was made of lanterns and laughter. She walked through narrow alleys in Nakameguro, where ivy climbed the walls and jazz spilled from open windows. She paused by a vending machine glowing in the dark and bought a can of warm milk tea. At a bridge over the canal, she stopped. The water reflected the stars. Somewhere in the distance, wind chimes sang. She wrote, "Japan is a conversation between opposites, old and new, silence and motion." ceremony and spontaneity. It asks nothing, yet gives everything. She returned to the ryokan late, toes tired, heart full. Before sleep, she knelt at the window, hands resting on the wooden frame. The moon rose slowly behind the trees, casting long shadows over the gravel path. She whispered, "Thank you for showing me what it means to live with care." And the night, like everything else in Japan, bowed back in silence.